She's the thief. Check her handbag. A jealous mistress and her friends shouts inside a luxury jewelry store as a bracelet goes missing and is suddenly found inside the wife's bag. The crowd turns against her. She's slapped, humiliated, and filmed, and the video explodes online. But what no one realizes is, the security cameras captured the moment that will destroy everything. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps this channel grow. Now let's begin. Clara Whitmore stepped out of the sleek black sedan that had just dropped her off in front of Aurora Crown Jewelers. The building stood like a monument of wealth and elegance in the heart of the city's luxury district. The glass facade reflected the afternoon sun, casting golden rays across the marble pavement outside. Even from the street, the store shimmered with a quiet promise of exclusivity. Clara adjusted the strap of her cream-colored handbag on her shoulder and looked up at the name written in bold gold letters above the entrance. Aurora Crown Jewelers. It was the most prestigious jewelry boutique in the city. Only the wealthiest families shopped there, and every piece inside the store was known to be crafted with extraordinary detail and rare materials. Clara had passed by the store many times before, but had never stepped inside. Today felt different. The past few months had been exhausting. She had been juggling work, social obligations, and the quiet loneliness that had begun creeping into her marriage. Daniel, her husband, had been traveling more frequently for business, and though she never confronted him about it, something about his distant behavior had left her unsettled. But today, she had decided not to dwell on it. Today was about herself. She pushed open the heavy glass door, and the cool air of the boutique greeted her instantly. Inside, the store was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling there, filled with necklaces, bracelets, and rings crafted from pure gold. Every surface gleamed. The marble floor shone so brightly it almost mirrored the lights above. Soft instrumental music played quietly in the background, adding to the luxurious atmosphere. A sales associate dressed in an elegant black suit approached Clara with a warm, professional smile. "Welcome to Aurora Crown Jewelers, ma'am." Clara returned the smile politely and glanced around the showroom. "It's beautiful here." The associate nodded with quiet pride. "We pride ourselves on offering the finest gold collections in the country. Are you looking for something special today?" Clara walked toward one of the display counters, her eyes scanning the rows of jewelry inside the glass. "Just something for myself. A small celebration." The associate opened the display case with a key and carefully lifted a tray of gold bracelets. "These are part of our new royal collection." Clara leaned slightly closer, admiring the craftsmanship. The gold pieces glowed under the chandelier lights, each one delicately engraved with intricate patterns. For the first time in weeks, she felt relaxed, completely unaware that across the showroom, someone had just recognized her. Vanessa Cole stood near the far side of the boutique, pretending to admire a set of gold earrings displayed behind glass. Her three friends surrounded her, chatting casually about jewelry and weekend plans. But the moment Clara walked in, Vanessa's attention snapped toward the entrance. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She recognized the woman immediately, not because they had ever met, but because she had seen Clara's pictures many times before. Pictures on Daniel Whitmore's phone. Daniel had shown them once while laughing casually during dinner, telling Vanessa that his wife loved expensive things and had a taste for luxury. At the time, Vanessa had barely paid attention. But now, standing in the same room with her, she saw Clara clearly. Elegant posture. Expensive dress. Calm confidence. The kind of woman who carried herself like she owned every room she entered. Vanessa's friend Lila noticed the sudden change in her expression. "What's wrong with you?" Vanessa leaned slightly closer to her friends and spoke quietly. "That woman over there." The friends followed her gaze. Clara stood at the counter speaking with the sales associate, completely unaware of the attention focused on her. "What about her?" one of them asked. Vanessa's lips curved into a slow smile. "That's Daniel's wife." The three women immediately reacted with shock and curiosity. "Wait, you're Daniel? The same one who just bought you that penthouse apartment?" Vanessa nodded slowly. "Yes, that one." The friends exchanged glances filled with amusement. One of them whispered with a laugh, "Wow, she's prettier than I expected." Vanessa's smile faded slightly, but only for a moment. Pretty didn't mean powerful. Vanessa had spent the past year enjoying the luxurious lifestyle Daniel provided. Expensive vacations, designer bags, exclusive restaurants. She had grown used to it. And seeing the wife in person stirred something unpleasant inside her. A mixture of jealousy and challenge. Her friend Lila leaned closer. "Does she know about you?" Vanessa shook her head. "Not a clue." The women observed Clara silently for a moment. "She looks very confident," one of them murmured. Vanessa crossed her arms. "Let's see how confident she stays." Her eyes flickered with a sudden idea. A dangerous one. Clara moved gracefully around the boutique, examining different pieces of jewelry displayed under soft lights. Each section of the store featured different collections, arranged with careful precision. The Royal Collection. The Heritage line. The limited edition pieces reserved only for select clients. The sales associate followed politely a few steps behind her, ready to assist whenever needed. Clara paused near a row of elegant gold necklaces displayed against black velvet stands. She adjusted her handbag slightly and looked around. Near the display counter sat a comfortable leather chair placed for customers who needed to rest while shopping. Clara gently placed her bag on the chair. "I'll just look around for a moment," she said to the associate. "Of course," the associate replied. Clara slowly walked deeper into the store, her attention completely focused on the jewelry displays. Behind her, Vanessa had been watching the entire scene carefully. The moment Clara walked away from the chair, Vanessa nudged her friends. "Did you see that?" Lila looked toward the chair. "Her bag?" Vanessa nodded slowly. "Exactly." Her friends instantly understood the mischievous tone in her voice. Lila raised an eyebrow. "You're not thinking what I think you're thinking, are you?" Vanessa glanced toward a nearby display case. Inside rested a thick gold bracelet with a price tag that would shock most people. $18,000. Her smile widened slightly. "Watch this." She walked casually toward the display, pretending to admire the bracelet. The sales associate assisting Clara was busy across the room. Another employee was helping a different customer. For a brief moment, no one paid attention to Vanessa. She quietly lifted the bracelet from the display tray. Her friends stood nearby, shielding the action from view. Vanessa walked slowly past the leather chair. Her hand slipped into Clara's bag for barely 2 seconds. Then she continued walking. The bracelet disappeared inside the handbag. Her friends stared at her with wide eyes. "You're crazy," Lila whispered. Vanessa simply shrugged. "No, I'm curious." She glanced across the showroom toward Clara. Still happily browsing. Still unaware. The trap had been set. 10 minutes later, the peaceful atmosphere inside Aurora Crown Jewelers shattered. One of the store managers suddenly froze while checking the display trays. Her eyes widened. "Excuse me." Her voice trembled slightly as she called. "Another employee." "The Royal Sun bracelet. Where is it?" The second employee quickly checked the tray. Confusion appeared on his face. "It should be right here." Within seconds, the tension inside the store shifted. Employees began checking nearby counters. Customers looked around curiously. Clara noticed the sudden activity and walked back toward the main counter. "Is something wrong?" The manager forced a polite smile. "One of our pieces appears to be missing." Clara frowned slightly. "Missing?" The manager nodded. "A very expensive bracelet from the Royal Collection." The room grew quiet. Vanessa exchanged a quick glance with her friends. Then she stepped forward casually. "Maybe someone picked it up by mistake." The manager nodded nervously. "Perhaps. But we need to locate it immediately." Vanessa crossed her arms thoughtfully. "There's a simple solution." Everyone looked at her. "We should check everyone's bags." The suggestion hung heavily in the air. Clara felt a sudden wave of discomfort. "Excuse me?" Vanessa looked at her calmly. "It's not personal. But this bracelet is worth a lot of money." The manager hesitated. This kind of request was unusual. But the situation was serious. One of the other customers spoke up. "I don't mind if they check mine." Another nodded in agreement. Soon several customers were opening their bags voluntarily. The tension inside the boutique continued rising. Clara felt uneasy but remained calm. She had nothing to hide. Vanessa watched her carefully. Her eyes gleamed with anticipation. The store manager began checking the bags one by one. Customers stood patiently while their belongings were inspected. Nothing appeared suspicious. Until they reached Clara. She walked toward the chair where her handbag rested. She picked it up and placed it gently on the counter. "You can check." Her voice remained calm. The manager nodded gratefully and carefully opened the bag. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then her hand froze. The manager slowly pulled something out. The gold bracelet. The same royal sun bracelet that had gone missing. The room fell into stunned silence. Clara's eyes widened in disbelief. "That's impossible." Vanessa gasped loudly. "Oh my God." Her friends stared dramatically. The manager looked confused and concerned. "Ma'am, this bracelet was inside your bag." Clara stepped forward quickly. "No, that can't be right." She looked directly at the bracelet. Her mind struggled to process what she was seeing. "I've never even touched that piece." Vanessa tilted her head slightly. "Really?" Her voice carried a faint trace of mock sympathy. "Because it was just found in your bag." Whispers began spreading through the showroom. One of the customers murmured quietly, "I didn't expect that." Clara felt her chest tighten. "I didn't steal anything." The manager looked conflicted. "Perhaps there has been some misunderstanding." Vanessa shook her head slowly. "Or maybe she's just lying." Clara turned sharply toward her. "Excuse me?" Vanessa folded her arms. "If you didn't take it, how did it end up in your bag?" Clara opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because she truly didn't know. And that uncertainty began spreading through the room like wildfire. The whispers grew louder. The tension inside Aurora Crown Jewelers had just reached a dangerous point. The silence that followed the discovery of the bracelet did not last long. At first it was only whispers. Soft murmurs moving from one side of the boutique to the other like wind through dry leaves. Customers exchanged glances. Some leaned closer to see the bracelet clearly. Others studied Clara with new suspicion, as though the elegant woman who walked confidently into the store minutes ago had suddenly transformed into someone else. The manager still held the bracelet in her hand, unsure how to handle the situation. Clara stared at it as if it did not belong to this reality. Her voice came out steady, but her mind was racing. "That bracelet was not in my bag before." Vanessa let out a quiet laugh that carried through the tense room. "Well, it certainly didn't walk in there by itself." The words caused several people nearby to chuckle nervously. Clara turned toward her slowly. Her eyes were calm, but inside she felt the humiliation rising like heat under her skin. "You seem very certain about what happened." Vanessa shrugged casually. "I only know what everyone else is seeing." Her friends stood slightly behind her, watching the situation unfold with obvious amusement. One of them whispered something to another, and they both smiled as if enjoying an entertaining show. The manager tried to maintain professionalism. "Ma'am, perhaps there has been a misunderstanding." Clara nodded immediately. "Yes, there has to be. I never touched that bracelet." One of the older customers stepped forward slightly. "But it was in your bag." The words carried weight. Clara looked around the room. Every pair of eyes now focused on her. She suddenly realized how quickly a room full of strangers could become a courtroom. Vanessa tilted her head thoughtfully. Maybe she forgot she took it. Clara's gaze snapped toward her. "I didn't take anything." Vanessa's expression shifted into something resembling mock sympathy. "Then you should be able to explain how it got there." The question hung in the air like smoke. Clara opened her mouth but paused. Because the truth was painfully simple. She could not explain it. And that uncertainty made the room even more uncomfortable. The manager placed the bracelet carefully back on the counter. "Perhaps we should call security just to clarify everything." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "Yes, that would probably be wise." Her voice carried the faintest hint of satisfaction. Clara felt the humiliation tightening around her like a trap. She had come to the boutique to treat herself to something beautiful. Now she stood in the middle of a luxury store being silently judged by strangers. But Vanessa was not finished. She stepped closer. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she examined Clara from head to toe. "You look like someone who can afford expensive things. So why steal one?" The words were calm, but the accusation was sharp. Clara inhaled slowly, forcing herself to remain composed. "I didn't steal anything." But the room had already started leaning toward a different conclusion. And Vanessa knew it. The tension inside the boutique grew heavier by the second. The manager tried to maintain order, but the atmosphere had already shifted beyond her control. Vanessa took another step forward, closing the distance between herself and Clara. Her tone became louder now, drawing more attention. "So you're saying the bracelet magically appeared in your bag?" Clara held her ground. "I am saying I didn't take it." One of Vanessa's friends snorted with laughter. "That's convenient." Another shook her head dramatically. "People always deny it when they get caught." Clara felt anger beginning to push through the humiliation. "You don't know me." Vanessa folded her arms. "I know what I saw." Before Clara could respond, Vanessa suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist. The movement was quick and aggressive. The entire store froze. "Why are you touching me?" Clara tried to pull her hand away, but Vanessa tightened her grip. "Because thieves should be held accountable." The accusation rang loudly through the room. Clara's composure cracked slightly. "I told you I didn't steal anything." Vanessa's friends moved closer. One of them shoved Clara's shoulder. "Stop pretending." The push caught Clara off balance. She stumbled slightly backward. The manager hurried forward. "Please, everyone calm down." But the situation was already spiraling. Vanessa's anger suddenly exploded. "You came into this store thinking you could steal and walk away." Clara tried to defend herself. "You're insane." The insult ignited something. Vanessa slapped her. The sound echoed across the marble floor. Gasps erupted from the surrounding customers. Clara's head turned sharply from the impact. Before she could react, one of the friends grabbed the sleeve of her dress. Another voice shouted, "Thief." Hands pushed her again. Someone yanked at her arm. Clara struggled to keep her balance as the group surrounded her. The elegant boutique had suddenly turned into chaos. One of the friends grabbed the side of Clara's dress. The fabric tore with a sharp ripping sound. "Look at her now." The humiliation hit harder than the slap. Clara tried to shield herself while people shouted accusations around her. The manager desperately tried to separate them. "Stop this immediately." But the mob mentality had taken over. To the onlookers, the scene had become entertainment. And someone had already decided to capture it. While the chaos unfolded, one of Vanessa's friends quietly stepped back. Her name was Sabrina. Unlike the others, she was not interested in physical confrontation. She was interested in something more powerful: attention. She pulled out her phone and began recording. The camera lens captured everything. Clara struggling to defend herself. Vanessa shouting accusations. The torn dress. The crowd watching. Sabrina zoomed in slightly. "Perfect." Her voice carried a tone of exaggerated shock as she narrated for the camera. "Look at this woman stealing gold jewelry." The words were calculated. Designed for the internet. Clara noticed the phone and felt another wave of panic. "Stop recording." Sabrina ignored her. The video continued. Caught red-handed inside Aurora Crown Jewelers. Clara tried to step away from the camera, but Vanessa blocked her path. "Where do you think you're going?" The crowd outside the store began noticing the commotion. People gathered near the glass windows. Some raised their phones as well. Inside the boutique, the tension had reached a boiling point. Sabrina finished the recording and quickly typed a caption. "Rich woman caught stealing gold bracelet." Within seconds, she posted the video. The internet moved faster than anyone in the room realized. Likes began appearing. Shares multiplied. Comments flooded in. Inside the store, Clara stood trembling with anger and humiliation. She had spent years building her reputation. One video could destroy it. Vanessa glanced at Sabrina. "Already posted?" Sabrina nodded proudly. "It's spreading." Vanessa smiled slowly. "Good." Clara looked around the room, realizing something terrifying. The damage had already begun. Eventually, 2 employees managed to separate the women. Clara stood near the counter, breathing heavily. Her dress was torn along one side, her hair slightly disheveled. The elegant confidence she had entered the boutique with now felt distant. Customers continued whispering. Some stared openly. Others pretended not to look, but kept glancing at her from the corners of their eyes. Vanessa stood across the room with her friends, acting as if nothing serious had happened. One of them laughed quietly. That was dramatic. Vanessa smirked. She deserved it. Clara heard the words. They burned. The manager approached her carefully. Ma'am, perhaps you should sit down. Clara refused. Her pride would not allow it. I am fine. But she was not. Inside, she felt as though the ground beneath her life had cracked open. She imagined the video already spreading online. Strangers judging her. Friends seeing it. Business partners questioning her character. Her reputation being reduced to a 30-second clip. All because of something she did not do. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed them on the counter. The manager looked deeply uncomfortable. We will need to report this situation. Clara nodded slowly. Of course. Vanessa walked closer again, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Maybe next time you should pay for things. The comment drew quiet laughter from her friends. Clara turned toward her. For the first time since the incident began, her eyes showed something stronger than humiliation. Determination. You're enjoying this. Vanessa shrugged casually. I just hate thieves. Clara stared at her. For several seconds. Then she looked toward the manager. There is one way to end this. The manager blinked. What do you mean? Clara's voice became steady. Check the security cameras. The room went quiet again. The suggestion changed the atmosphere instantly. Vanessa's smile faded for the briefest moment. Security cameras? The manager hesitated. Yes, we do have cameras throughout the store. Clara nodded firmly. Then let's watch them. Vanessa quickly recovered her composure. Sure. She crossed her arms. If you're innocent, that should prove it. Her friends exchanged nervous glances. Sabrina whispered quietly. Do they really have cameras everywhere? Vanessa lowered her voice. Relax. No one saw anything. But Clara had already made her decision. She refused to leave the store with her reputation destroyed. The manager gestured toward a hallway behind the main counter. Please follow me. Several customers leaned closer, curious to see what would happen next. Vanessa and her friends followed as well. None of them wanted to miss the outcome. Inside the small security room, multiple screens displayed different angles of the boutique. The manager called another employee to rewind the footage. Clara stood silently, her arms crossed tightly. Her heart pounded as the video rolled backward. Vanessa tried to remain calm, but a thin line of sweat formed along her neck. The footage showed Clara entering the store, walking around the displays, placing her bag on the chair, then walking away. Everyone watched closely. Clara felt every second stretch painfully long. The employee slowed the video. Look here. The screen zoomed slightly toward the chair. Vanessa appeared on the screen. She walked toward the display case, lifted the bracelet, then casually passed the chair. Her hand slipped into Clara's bag. The room froze. No one spoke. The truth sat clearly on the screen. The manager slowly turned toward Vanessa. Her voice filled with disbelief. You put the bracelet in her bag. Vanessa's face drained of color. Clara stared at the screen. Then she slowly turned toward the women who had just humiliated her. The room fell completely silent. And the balance of power had just changed. The security room felt smaller than it had a few minutes earlier. Every person inside it stared at the screen as if it were a mirror reflecting something ugly none of them expected to see. Vanessa stood frozen. The footage had removed every possible excuse. The camera angle was clear and merciless. Her hand slipped into Clara's bag. The bracelet disappeared inside it. Then she walked away as though nothing had happened. The employee replayed the clip again. No one asked him to. But the silence demanded confirmation. Once more the screen displayed the same moment. Vanessa planting the bracelet. Clara felt something shift inside her chest. For the past 20 minutes, she had been drowning in humiliation, confusion, and anger. But now something else was rising. Control. She slowly turned toward Vanessa. Her voice came out calm, almost frighteningly calm. So this was your game. Vanessa's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Her friends looked at each other nervously. Their confidence had evaporated. The store manager stared at Vanessa with disbelief. You framed her. In my store. Vanessa tried to laugh weakly. It was just a joke. The employee operating the security monitor turned his chair slowly. A joke? His voice carried disbelief. You caused a physical fight and accused someone of theft over an $18,000 bracelet. Vanessa's friend Lila tried to step in. We didn't mean for things to go that far. Clara's eyes moved from one woman to another. A moment earlier they had called her a thief. They had torn her dress. They had slapped her in front of strangers. Now they looked like frightened children caught cheating. Clara walked closer to the screen and watched the footage once more. Her voice became colder. You didn't mean for things to go that far. She repeated the words slowly, as if tasting them. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. You know how people overreact sometimes. The manager's patience snapped. Enough. Her voice echoed inside the room. This is not some small misunderstanding. You humiliated a customer, assaulted her, and attempted to frame her for theft inside my boutique. She turned toward Clara. Ma'am, I deeply apologize for what happened here. Clara nodded slowly. Your apology is not the problem. Her eyes returned to Vanessa. She is. Vanessa crossed her arms defensively. Look, we can settle this without making a big deal out of it. Clara raised an eyebrow. You already made it a big deal. Then she looked toward the manager again. Please call the police. The words landed heavily. Vanessa's friends immediately reacted. Police? Wait, that's unnecessary. But Clara remained unmoved. Her humiliation had already been broadcast to strangers. The law would now deal with the consequences. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived at Aurora Crown Jewelers. The atmosphere inside the boutique had completely transformed. The same people who had watched Clara being accused earlier were now whispering about the shocking turn of events. Vanessa stood near the counter, her confidence completely gone. Her friends avoided eye contact with everyone. The officers listened carefully as the store manager explained the situation. She replayed the security footage. Both officers watched in silence. When the clip ended, the taller officer nodded slowly. That looks very clear. He turned toward Vanessa. Ma'am, we need you and your friends to come with us for questioning. Vanessa's composure finally cracked. You can't arrest us for a prank. The officer raised an eyebrow. A prank that included false accusations, assault, and defamation? Her face turned pale. Meanwhile, Clara stood quietly near the entrance, watching the scene unfold. The store employees had given her a shawl to cover the tear in her dress. Her phone vibrated. Inside her bag. She ignored it. Then it rang again. And again. Eventually she answered. Daniel's voice came through immediately. Clara, what the hell is going on? His tone carried urgency. She closed her eyes briefly. The video had reached him. What do you mean? Your video is everywhere online. People are saying you got caught stealing jewelry. Clara felt a wave of bitter irony. That's not what happened. Daniel sighed impatiently. Then what happened? She looked across the store at Vanessa, who now stood beside the police officers. Your girlfriend tried to frame me. The words traveled through the phone like a blade. Daniel went silent. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he spoke again. You're exaggerating. Clara's expression hardened. The security cameras say otherwise. Another pause. Daniel finally spoke in a quieter voice. I'm coming there. Clara ended the call without another word. 15 minutes later, he arrived. The moment Daniel stepped into the boutique, his eyes immediately found Vanessa standing near the officers. The shock on his face lasted only a second. Then his expression became tense. Clara watched him carefully. He walked toward her. What is going on here? Her voice remained calm. You can watch the footage if you're curious. Daniel glanced nervously at Vanessa. She looked away. The officer spoke calmly. Sir, your companion here planted a bracelet in this woman's bag and falsely accused her of theft. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. This is ridiculous. Clara studied his reaction closely. Not anger at Vanessa. Not concern for his wife. Just irritation. And that told her everything. Daniel pulled Clara slightly aside. His voice dropped into a quiet whisper. You're blowing this out of proportion. Clara stared at him slowly. Your mistress framed me, had her friends beat me, posted a video calling me a thief, and you think I'm overreacting. Daniel glanced toward the officers. Keep your voice down. Clara laughed softly. You're worried about your reputation. He looked irritated. Of course I am. This situation is embarrassing for everyone. Clara folded her arms. Embarrassing. That was the word he chose. Not cruel. Not illegal. Embarrassing. She studied his face carefully, as if seeing him clearly for the first time. You knew her. Daniel hesitated. It's not what you think. Clara shook her head slowly. It's exactly what I think. Across the store, Vanessa watched them anxiously while speaking with the police. Daniel lowered his voice again. Look, mistakes happen. Clara's eyes narrowed. Mistakes. He continued. Tell them you don't want to press charges and we can move on from this. Clara blinked once. You want me to drop the case? Daniel nodded quickly. Yes. There's no need to destroy people's lives over a misunderstanding. The words hung between them. Clara felt something inside her break. Or perhaps finally become clear. You're protecting her. Daniel sighed. I'm protecting everyone. Clara looked down at her torn dress. At the faint red mark still visible on her cheek. Then she looked back at him. She humiliated me in public. Daniel shrugged slightly. People will forget. Clara's voice dropped into something dangerously quiet. I won't. Daniel realized too late that the conversation had taken a turn he could not control. Back in the main showroom, the officers finished reviewing the footage again. One of them turned toward Vanessa. Ma'am, you and your friends are being taken in for questioning. Vanessa's composure shattered completely. This is insane. Her voice rose loudly. It was just a prank. The officer remained calm. Assault and false accusation are not pranks. Her friend Sabrina spoke nervously. We didn't mean to hurt anyone. Clara stepped forward. But you did. The room grew quiet again. Vanessa looked directly at Clara. You're really going to ruin our lives over this. Clara held her gaze. You tried to ruin mine first. The officer placed handcuffs on Vanessa's wrists. The metallic sound echoed through the boutique. Gasps filled the room. Vanessa's friends were cuffed as well. As they were led toward the exit, Vanessa turned back one last time. Her voice carried anger and disbelief. You think this makes you powerful? Clara answered calmly. No. It makes things fair. The officers escorted the women outside. Through the glass walls of the boutique, curious pedestrians watched the scene unfold. Some recognized Vanessa from the viral video already circulating online. Phones were raised again. But this time the narrative had changed. Inside the store, the manager approached Clara. We will provide the footage to the authorities and support your case fully. Clara nodded. Thank you. Daniel stepped closer again. You're really going through with this? Clara met his eyes. Yes. He shook his head in frustration. This is going to turn into a media circus. Clara responded quietly. It already has. Outside, the police vehicles drove away. Inside the boutique, a strange calm settled over the room. But Clara knew this moment was not the end. It was only the beginning. The crowd outside slowly began to disperse as the police cars disappeared down the street. Inside Aurora Crown Jewelers, the tension that had filled the building for nearly an hour finally started to fade. Employees began quietly reorganizing the displays that had been disturbed during the chaos. The shattered calm left behind a strange silence. Clara stood near the entrance, looking out through the glass windows. Her reflection stared back at her. The torn dress. The tired eyes. The woman who had walked into the boutique earlier felt like someone from another lifetime. Daniel stood a few steps behind her. His voice came out softer now. Clara. She didn't turn. He continued. You don't have to take this any further. Clara finally faced him. Her expression had changed. Not angry. Not emotional. Just clear. You still think this is about revenge? Daniel frowned slightly. Isn't it? Clara shook her head. This is about consequences. Daniel ran a hand over his face. People make mistakes. Clara held his gaze. Some mistakes reveal the truth. He studied her carefully. What truth? She stepped closer. The truth that my husband stood beside the woman who framed me instead of the woman he married. Daniel tried to respond but stopped. For the first time that day, he seemed unsure what to say. Clara picked up her handbag from the counter. The same bag that had nearly destroyed her reputation. Her voice remained steady. You asked me to drop the case. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes. She adjusted the shawl covering her torn dress. I'm not dropping it. His expression tightened. You're making a mistake. Clara shook her head once more. No. I'm correcting one. She walked toward the exit. Daniel followed her. Where are you going? Clara paused near the door. The golden letters of the boutique name reflected behind her. Home. Then she looked directly at him. And tomorrow I'm calling my lawyer. Daniel stared at her, realizing too late that the woman standing in front of him was no longer the same person he had taken for granted. Clara opened the door and stepped outside into the afternoon sunlight. Behind her, the luxurious boutique glittered quietly, as if nothing had happened. But Clara knew something had changed forever. Not just inside the store. Inside her life. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful story. Please don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. Bye, see you in the next one.